with United Township's Nick Welch, and today we'll head over to Rock Island and check in on the brand new head coach of the Rock Island Rocks. Anthony Roome joins us right now. Happy opening day. It's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, and I watched the show yesterday. Anytime you put Coach Welch on, I got to watch and listen. And I did think that you put it best. I sent a text to all of our coaches this morning, like, hey, it's Christmas Day. Like, the presents are under the tree. We made it through the summer, and it's here. We're finally to it.
I got to back up a second. You didn't just watch for Nick Welch, right? You watch every day. You watch every day. It just so happened that Nick was on, right?
Hey, and I gotta give you credit. When you have Pat on, I definitely gotta listen to what he has to say too. When he's sitting in his car doing the show with you, makes for an interesting show.
You never know what's going to come out of that man's mouth. That's for sure.
No.
Anthony Roome joined us, the new football coach at Rock Island High School. We're going to get to the important stuff in a second, but I like to introduce you as the captain of the 2026 Guy Randazzo Memorial Golf Outing Championship team. Y'all came, not just played, but you won this summer. Congrats, man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having us. I don't know how many people were happy that the Rock Island team won your outing. I didn't get a lot of cheers at that thing, but, and people were asking if I brought ringers, but, when you bring a couple guys who can hit the ball far, that kind of helps. So.
Yeah. No, it was a blast. I appreciate you coming out. And here's the beauty thing. I joked with you yesterday. The next 2 Sunday evenings, you're going to have to spend time with me. We're going to have the kickoff show for the View from the West coming up this Sunday. Again, a reminder, anybody out there want to come and listen to high school football talk, it's at the Other Bar in Moline starting at 4 o'clock. We're going to have a blast. And then the following Sunday is the Western Big Six Coaches Banquet. They're stuck with me emceeing that still. So you're my favorite guy in the entire conference. Like, Morrissey still can't stand my dead father. Like, it's disrespectful and awful that he can't show any respect to my father, my hero. I mean, he's only my hero. And then Welch didn't come this year. They had the Shrine Bowl, so I'll give him a little bit of a off the hook this year as well. But we did have a blast, and we appreciate that as well. More importantly, you are the head football coach at Rock Island. I know you hit the ground running. I remember when you took the job, we chatted right away. I don't want to say your head was spinning, but you were excited and you were getting rolling. If I went back to that day you took the job, and then I talked to you this morning, what have you learned the most in that small amount of time?
I think the thing that I've learned the most is that, that trust goes a long ways. Trusting staff, the staff that we have here is unbelievable. Whether it's the football staff, the school staff, from Mr. Emmendorfer to the principal, all super supportive and really get behind us. And then honestly, the one thing is just, I think head was spinning, how are the kids going to take how we implement our standard, how we go about our day-to-day business. And, that those type of nerves kind of added to the head spinning part of the process. But, once you learn to just trust the players as much as the staff and that they're buying in, like, that kind of took a lot of the nerves out of it. And then, kind of like you and I were talking, like, then the coaching side becomes easier. And, you get to do what you love day in and day out.
No, absolutely. I guess the question is, how have they taken to it? Obviously, everything's different when it comes to a change in coaching and a program as well. How have the kids adapted? How have they bought in, is maybe the best word, to what you want to do at Rock Island High School?
Yeah, and I think the one thing that we've really tried to push is just the leadership side of things, from the older kids, especially, kids who have been a part of, the program the last 3-4 years. And, when I'm talking with people, like, I could list a ton of different names that have just been stepping up in every sort of different way, whether it's leading their position group, just being a quiet leader and showing up every day and doing the day in, day out work. And then there's some guys that have kind of risen to the top as far as, like, leading the team as a whole, and guys who bring the energy every single day. And that kind of helps our mindset of, going that 1-0 every day mentality, because really that's where we were at. When you're implementing 2 new systems, a new standard, the big picture stuff is kind of out the window, and having them buy in and focus on that day-to-day process has been huge.
You look at it, Anthony, and there's an excitement, I think, in Rock Island right now, and an energy, and you bring that, a younger coach energy. But like, if you look, I'll go back to the Western Mix Six the last decade, and it was first the knucklehead over at that good-looking guy at Moline, who you've worked under, that had that built an energy around the program. And then I don't think there's been a better case example personally than what Nick has done over at United Township, a program that hadn't won in forever, and not just the winning, but the energy around it. Can you separate the two? Obviously, football is football, and that's what you got to coach. But you've got to bring an energy and an excitement to, hey, this is Rock Island football, and I can't miss out. Like, I want to be part of that. Have you kind of learned from those two knuckleheads when it comes to, I think, what you're doing right now at Rock Island when it comes to looking on social media and seeing the energy around the program?
Yeah, and kind of jokingly, but seriously too, I got a young man who helps run like our social media page, and I told him, I was like, we need to put our stuff out there, so everyone can see what we're doing. Like our kids on our team deserve for everyone to know what work they're putting in, what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and he's done a great job of that, just helping facilitate that side of things. And I think the biggest thing when I really look back at like what Coach Morrissey and Coach Welch have done is the engagement with the community. Because as soon as you get a community behind your program, it's like it really takes off. That's really who kind of pushes your program. And, we've tried to do as much from volunteer work to our fundraisers to whatever it is, just getting out and saying like, we hit that rebirth stage. Like we're a new program. We started over, and this is who we are as a program. So, learning from those two was just how they operate on a day-to-day basis, but then kind of taking some of their big picture side of things to elevate their program from, like you said with Coach Welch, from a spot that was in a pretty low to now he's having a lot of success. So just trying to take those little tidbits from them and still talk to them on a frequent basis. So picking up little things as we go still.
I love it. Anthony Roome joining us over at Rock Island High School in OTA. Coach, you look at it and your staff is assembled. I think last time I talked to you, it was right after you were, I think you're just getting done having pizza and enjoying the new gig. The staff has come together nicely. It's some familiar faces that I think Rock Island people and Rock Island knows, and then a mix of some new faces, some energy as well. Talk about the staff and what you get. I've been watching on social media, and you've been introducing or reintroducing different coaches throughout the last week or two. How's the staff come together? And you mentioned they're important when it comes to delegating and getting everything you want to get done.
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing that when putting together our staff is that we have a lot of teachers on our staff, which was like a big deal for us as a program, just as many people that we could get in the building as possible. Matthew McCarthy coached defensive backs at UT the last 4 years, I believe. So he's with me for 2, and he came over. He's going to call our defense. The energy he brings is, kind of unmatched. Like he really gets after it, and it's kind of a side of the ball now that, he can take care of and coach the coaches on his side of the ball. Like you said, a lot of familiar faces. I could go down our list, but a lot, Rock Island guys, Coach Nunn, Coach Rossler, both been around. Coach Smallbach is back with us, helping out as well, and and Coach Justin Brandt is back at Rock Island. And even the guys who aren't teachers, they do teaching at their jobs. So that was a big thing. For me, I think Coach Harris is at the middle school, and he's the ultimate motivator. He's very good at motivating the young men around him. and then I'd be remiss to say, obviously, we kind of talked about your golf outing and your dad being your hero and stuff like that. But, like having my dad on staff, helping coach inside linebackers, like that's a big deal for me. It's kind of a comfort area. He'll send me a text every once in a while to either say, hey, get your butt in gear, or, hey, tone it back a little bit. The kids are doing really well. So, all the coaches on staff are just phenomenal teachers, phenomenal motivators. I couldn't ask more from them.
The program, it's been a build to get to this point. It's practice today. Not that you haven't been on the field and looking at what you have. What have you liked? What have you seen from this team on the field wise that you're going to like this year that are good foundational building blocks for what you guys want to do in the future?
Yeah, I think, when I've coached against Rock Island, I never got a chance to play against Rock Island, but obviously followed them closely. I think one of the things that I've liked is just the uptick in physicality. It was kind of always said, coaching against them, playing against them, hey, Rock Island's the most athletic team in the conference. They're the fastest team in the conference. Okay, like let's beat them with the physicality side of things then, if they're going to be the most athletic. And I really think that over the summer we kind of ramped up the physicality a little bit to see where we stood. And, that's going to be our brand of football. We want to be physical. We want to be disciplined. We want to execute, but we also want to take advantage. We have some really athletic kids too. So we want to take advantage of that, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And defensively, just buying into the scheme. It's a new scheme, but just seeing kids fly around. Like, we want to keep it simple for them. Maybe complex to what it looks like to other people when they're scouting us, but for them, we want it to be simple so they can play fast. And just how they've picked up, how they've learned in the classroom, and then going out on the field and executing has been really good.
You mentioned talking with Coach Welch yesterday, and some of the familiar names are gone. I asked him, hey, what are some of the names we're going to get used to hearing? I'm going to ask you the same thing at Rock Island. Who are some guys that you're excited about seeing on the field that we're probably going to get used to talking about on Friday nights and Saturday mornings and throughout the week here on OTA? Who are some guys that have your eye early on?
Yeah, I think, a couple that really stuck out, Brock Carroll was a all-conference player last year. He'll play both offense and defense. Xavier McMeans is going to also be a junior. He's kind of a gadget type guy. We can kind of move him all over the place, and he's super smart and really picks up what we're trying to accomplish on offense. Ellis Schwartz at quarterback he's kind of one of those kids that I said is kind of really like risen as far as like a leadership standpoint, and just absorbing everything that we're throwing at him. Like quarterback's different. He's got to know. O-line's just got to know the O-line stuff. They don't necessarily have to worry about what, receivers are doing or anything like that. He's got to know all of it. And he's really brought in. And then, up front, we do have some guys returning up front. Brooklyn Rossler has been doing a really good job. Kind of leading that group. Trevor Nunn is back as a senior. And then, really look for big things from Jameer McDaniel, both on the O-line and D-line. I think he's really going to catch some eyes as far as, his physical capabilities and what he can do. We have some comparisons that we've used with him, but, he's one like he really sticks out at practice. And when he gets into somebody, it's like, oh, he can play ball. But those are just a few names. I think there's a lot of guys who are really going to do well on Friday nights.
It's funny you might as well mention Bronx Rossler. You mentioned the two Rosslers already. It's amazing how good of kids they are despite their dad. You know what I mean? Like, despite Justin and that nonsense that he is, they've done a great job. Good kids there. I kid. I love Justin. Anthony Roome joining us here on Off There with Matt Randazzo. We talked a little bit with Coach Welch yesterday when it comes to the new calendar. How do you guys look at the new calendar? Obviously, I don't want to say everything's new to you because you've done this, but new as a head coach. Has it been different? You guys start school today, so I don't know if it's that big of a deal because it used to be school was already going anyways. What's it like, I guess, personally for you? How are the kids? Are you talking much about it, or are you just hitting the ground running?
For us, we're really hitting the ground running. I think the only thing that we've kind of talked about as coaches was like, you know, when like a Rock Island or United Township, we're on that year-round modified schedule. And I think we kind of talked about yesterday as coaches, normally like, hey, the kids come to school like today, and we kind of have that 3-day buffer to like, hey, get the kids acclimated to school, and then we'll start on Monday, you know, and but we were laughing because then we're like, kids and coaches get acclimated to school a little bit. You know, but besides that, it's just like, honestly, I think it just adds more excitement to the first day of school, and just jumping into it and just saying, hey, school starts, football starts, let's go. And we're on a normal schedule with practices. We don't, you know, I think some teams are going in the morning because they don't have school yet. So for us, it's just like, hey, we're just starting our routine now, you know, and we'll take it and roll with it.
When you look at this Western Big Six, you're learning and getting everything situated at Rock Island, but you know plenty about the conference. You've been around the conference, and you're not old.
Yep.
You're not an old guy like me. When you look at this conference as a whole, I don't want you, I mean, you can handicap it if you want to, like Nick did yesterday, and go through it, whatever, or try to say something nice about everybody. But when you look at this, you know it's going to be a dogfight. You know the coaches are going to have their teams ready and prepared. Big picture for the Western Big Six, and what do you think of the conference?
Yeah, I think, you know, Coach Wells kind of talked about it yesterday, but the thing I've been kind of telling people is that, you know, I think because the returners coming back, I think, you know, Moline has been a lot of preseason favorites as far as just because just what you look at on the roster, what they have coming back and the amount of experience, you know, offense and defensive skill positions, and stuff like that. But I think the one thing with the Western Big Six this year is I think this might be the most competitive year in a while, just from top to bottom. You know, I think there will be nights where, you know, one team beats another, and then, you know, they maybe lose to a different team and that team beats them, you know, and it kind of rotates around, and, you know, who beats who. And, you know, I think this year, more important than any, there's not a single week where you're like, oh, this is, you know, if we just show up, it'll be fine type week. You know, I think every single week is a challenge, and that's why taking it the week by week, you know, I think Sterling with the experience coming back is going to be different than the last couple of years for them. You know, you keep going down. Geneseo's got guys coming back. Quincy's still got some of their guys coming back. I think Galesburg's going to take another jump this year, doing some good things. And, you know, UT is well coached. They got guys who know what they're doing and have been doing it for a while. You know, and having that experience piece on their staff will definitely help them as trying to get through the grind of the Western Big Six this year.
Absolutely. Canelan is first for you guys, a trip to Canelan. How much do you talk about that today? Is it like, hey, we're getting, not obviously it's not game week, but is it still just stacking today, and maybe talk about that first trip of the season? And obviously you have a couple non-conference games before you get into the heat of the Western Big Six. The start coming soon and earlier than ever, as we mentioned, August 21st. What do you know about Canelan, and how quickly do you start even talking about that name?
Yeah, you know, we talked about it in a staff meeting yesterday. You know, we'll use basically kind of the rest of this week to just keep working on ourselves. We're not really going to start preparing for Canelan. But, you know, when we get into next week, like we're offensively, defensively, we're going to prepare for them. Like we're going to take advantage and kind of treat it as an extra, you know, week, you know, maybe like a bye week type deal where we're getting ready for that first game. You know, obviously there's shouldn't say a lot of unknown, but some unknown, just because I know Canelan graduated some players from last year in some key positions. So a little bit of unknown as far as that goes. And, you know, because of the schedule moving up, they're not scrimmaging anybody. So, you know, that kind of takes any, you know, newspaper articles or guys like you doing a report on like what the scrimmage looked like. But, you know, I have a little familiarity with them because they've been really well coached for a long time. You know, they joined the conference when I was in high school when we created the Northern Illinois Big 12. And then same thing when I was coaching at Geneseo, they were still in our conference. Just really well coached, really fundamental team. You know, they've had success the last several years, but they're no joke as a program. So, that's why we're going to kind of take the extra week to get ready to play them.
Anthony Roome joining us right now on Off There with Matt Randazzo. Some dumb questions before I let you go. And I did a round of dumb questions with you last time when you got the job. I don't remember what I said, so I'm going to keep them more recent if I can. Has there been an welcome to head coaching moment yet? A goofy one. I mean, not just on the field itself, but has there been a moment where you're just like, oh, wow, like I'm a head coach now. I have to deal with these certain things already. Has there been a welcome to coaching moment like that?
It's kind of funny because the one of the assistant coaches brought it up, but the welcome to coaching moment, and everyone jokes about it, is make sure the players get their physicals in. It goes around